Have you ever felt like everyone has been going through life pretty simple, pretty easy, but you're going through life almost like you're wearing cement shoes. Everything just feels so much harder than it really should. I want to talk to you today about a revelation that I've had a few months ago. And honestly, it changed so much in my life. So, a friend of mine sent me this video on AuDHD and double masking. Before this video, I had never heard of these words before. I didn't know what they meant. I didn't know what it was. But she had sent it to me in the context to say that this is what I was doing in this moment. And it didn't make any sense. I watched this video and it wasn't just that's kind of interesting. It was huge. I was giddy all day. I was vibrating. Like, my nervous system caught up before my brain actually understood what was actually happening. It was just like it was a light bulb moment, like someone to turn the lights on, because all the time before that I was actually walking in the dark is what it was like. And I didn't really realize it until I watched this video. And it was what I'm calling, I guess, a light bulb moment. And my life didn't actually change, but how I viewed my life and myself and understood myself more, that's what changed profoundly. So I wanted to talk to you about that today. And if this resonates for you, or maybe it'll help you, maybe you're discovering this as well just for the first time like I was. Maybe this is new for you as well. Welcome to Life is the Messy Bits, and my name is Sherry. Today we're going to really get into it. So before this revelation, I never really had much of an easy life, so to speak. Everything I ever had was something I had to work so hard for. It almost seemed like it was 10 times harder than other people. It almost felt like as if I was walking with my shoelaces tied together this whole time until I found this video. So before this, to backtrack, I didn't discover until I was in my early 30s, maybe, that I had dyslexia. And I also discovered at that time that there's actually five different types of dyslexia. I didn't know that. And I thought dyslexia was this whole encompassing thing. So I've always struggled in school when I was a student. It was not an easy thing. When it came to spelling and grammar, it was absolutely horrible. I would invert my letters and add extra letters that didn't belong. And my mom was such a grammar queen, and spelling was her thing. And she couldn't really understand why I just didn't get it. My dad was a math whiz, and me and numbers, we didn't get along. So back when I went to school, we used to have to write our proof of how we got to the answer and the process to show all that information. And I could get that right pretty much every time. But when it came to the actual answers, it was almost never right. And like, I was in the special math, I say that with air quotes, because math, I get a pit in my stomach whenever I even think of numbers. I hated it. And with both of my parents being on both sides of math and numbers and letters, and they were so good at both of them, it was so frustrating that I didn't understand it. I thought maybe I was just slow, that I just didn't understand things the same way, that I was different. And it really took a toll on me. And I didn't really realize how much until I understood why I was this way. And basically what it came down to is I'm not wired the same way most people are. I'm the typical way. I'm not neurotypical. And until I realized that, things like that, it really hit me hard that I was having such a struggle with every aspect of my life. But there was one part of my life, it was quite interesting. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And one of the things I discovered about ADHD and AuDHD is I used to think it was genetic, that if someone in your family has it, you're going to get it, or you have a good chance of getting it. If it runs in the family, it's just a thing. But apparently that's not exactly the way it works. There's still some studies going on and whatnot, but what I discovered is if you have the gene, it may be dormant and not show itself, or it's always going to be there. It's always going to be active. But if it's dormant, it's usually activated by a trauma situation or just a lifestyle situation. Your environment can wake it up as well. So there's a variety of ways that it can, as I call, wake up. And for me, it was when I had a car accident when I was 21. I didn't know it at the time, but looking back now, from what I understand now, I can see the path. And that's when those genes for me, that's when they woke up. So backtracking to when I was 21, had the car accident. But before that, I had a 10-month-old baby. A friend of ours had just had a really bad accident, and his family ended up staying with us, and I was able to run the household. I was helping my ex a little bit with his business, and I was doing all that without missing a beat. No problem whatsoever. So after the accident, well, first of all, I don't even remember the accident. I remember just before the accident, and then all of a sudden everybody was out of the car. So I hit my head on something. I got knocked out. It was very briefly, apparently, but nonetheless, I lost consciousness and didn't realize it right away because right after the accident, we were just dealing with the typical aches and pains, concussion, that kind of stuff, and taking care of a 10-month-old baby. We then realized I was having memory blanks. That's what I call them. Forgetting conversations, not remembering tasks, not remembering what I was supposed to be doing. There's this one conversation or argument actually that sticks out. When my ex came to me and said, well, when are you going to go to the store? And I said to him, what are you talking about? He said, well, you said you were going to go to the store and get some milk. And then it ended up being a full-blown argument because I didn't remember any of it. And I was emphatic. I wasn't the problem. It was him. He was just making it up or whatever. But that wasn't the case. It was memory blanks. And it was random. It wasn't like super important things or not important things that I would forget. It was completely random, and I never knew what was going to happen. And it wasn't until somebody brought it up to me that I would realize I was having this. So I got to the point where I would be driving sometimes, and I'd have to pull over because I didn't know where I was going or why I was even in the car. I would just be on autopilot, and then I would look around and think, what the heck am I doing? Where am I supposed to be going? And back then, I couldn't just pick up my cell phone and call somebody and say, hey, what was I supposed to be doing? They didn't have those back then. So it started weighing on me. And then my behavior changed. I became kind of flighty and sketchy, not reliable, couldn't keep track of time. I actually became that person where my family would invite me to events, but they would tell me a time that I was supposed to be there that was actually earlier than everyone else was going to arrive because they knew that I wouldn't be there on time. I was that person. I was that person that was like the post-it note queen. I would have to put post-its on the bathroom mirror, in the living room, in the kitchen, on the fridge, in the fridge. I couldn't remember a single task and stick with it and follow through. I was having all of these different things all over the house half done. And like dishes, it would take me all day to do a couple of dishes. And that wasn't me before. But after, I was a completely different person. And I started having money problems, and among a whole bunch of other things. My ex actually thought that I was bipolar. And he pushed really hard to try and get me diagnosed. And there was actually a time where I thought maybe he was right. And fast forward a few years, my second husband, he would tell me I had too many projects on the go. I had to pick one, stick with one, follow through, finish it, and then carry on. And after a while, that kind of weighed on me, that like maybe I wasn't capable of doing these things. Maybe there was something wrong with me. So I've actually now come to the realization that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just wired differently, and that's okay. Since then, I've come to the realization that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. I'm not dumb. I'm not lazy. I'm just wired differently. So fast forward to when I'm 52 and understanding just different ways that I function. So it was about 4 or 5 months ago that a friend of mine sent me this video. Now, being diagnosed with ADHD, it made me have a better understanding about myself, but it didn't really have a huge impact, for lack of better words. It just gave me more of a, oh, okay, that makes more sense now. Now, when I saw this video, it blew my mind. I mean, I was giddy all day. I was almost vibrating inside. My nervous system was feeling it before it caught up to my brain. It was huge. It was like as if the entire time before in my entire life I've been walking around doing life with the lights out, and someone flicked the switch. Suddenly, everything just made so much more sense. So in this video, as I mentioned before, I heard these two words that I'd never heard before: AuDHD and masking, or double masking. I never knew what that was. I'd never heard that before. I didn't know that that was a thing. So I'm watching this video, and they're describing, this person is describing basically me. You know, you're okay with touch, but not that touch. You're good with sounds, but not that sound. And what I also learned was it's not ADHD and autism together. They're two very different things. It's kind of like you interrupt conversations because of ADHD, and then you spiral because your autism knows that it was wrong. And you feel like you don't really fit in everywhere because you're actually everything. And you're dealing with what they call rejection sensitive dysphoria, while also having alexithymia. And so basically this is feeling everything and nothing at the same time or within the first hour. So, and you're also dealing with what they call rejection sensitive dysphoria. And also at the same time, you're having alexithymia, which basically means you're feeling everything and nothing, often within an hour. Often what this feels like, it's like having a librarian and a tornado in your body at the same time. But here's the cool thing about AuDHD, or one of the cool things about AuDHD. You have abilities neither condition alone actually provide. You have pattern recognition combined with pattern breaking. And this creates innovative situations. This is some really cool stuff that I've discovered. And basically you have hyper focus and autism's intensity with ADHD's creativity. And something that really resonated with me is people with ADHD tend to be really good in a crisis. And that's because your ADHD thrives in that kind of an environment. But autism, it rapidly synthesizes situations. But ask you to maintain something steady, and your brain would actually rather die. So traditional approaches don't actually work because you're not traditional anything. The really cool thing about this revelation is it made me realize, even more so, more truly understanding, that I actually am not broken. I'm not dumb. I am not lazy. I'm actually not flighty or sketchy or any of those labels that were put on me. I am completely different, and that's okay. I am not wired the way a neurotypical is. And there's nothing really wrong with that. I actually used to call myself a lazy perfectionist, where I wouldn't do a task until I can actually complete it 100% the way I wanted it to. But in doing that, I would actually get nothing done. So I used to think that I was just lazy and I'll get to it later. But then I would do that with other projects as well, or other tasks as well. So I'd have all these different tasks undone, kind of left like a little trail. And it would be frustrating, sure. And it was frustrating for me, but also for the people living with me at the time as well. And I get that. But it doesn't mean that I was lazy. It just means that I was wired different, and I didn't understand that at the time. When I watched this video, it was also very freeing. So that day was interesting as well, because it was like I had always been walking with cement shoes, very heavy, dragging my feet, very difficult to get anywhere. Or like walking with my shoelaces tied together. And the interesting thing that day was, after watching the video, I was having a conversation with my friend that sent that to me, and it was very freeing. I was like vibrating everywhere, and it was as if I was walking, and then not that I could just walk better, but basically almost as if someone had undone the laces, like I could walk properly. And ironically, I wasn't wearing shoes with laces that day. I was actually wearing sandals with Velcro, and as I was explaining this, the Velcro actually came undone, and that was so timely and perfect. It was just awesome. So fast forward to today. I wanted to actually record this video on my birthday. That was 2 days ago. I'm 53 now, and I've taken stock of the past year. I've learned so much. I want to help other people. I want to help share my story and help other people realize that they're not broken. They're not dumb. They are just wired differently. I actually still have the memory blanks. I mean, things have gotten better over the years. Not perfect, but slowly and gradually I've learned new tips and tricks and how to work with my memory the way that it is. But even as much as like a couple of weeks ago, my son, we had just recently had a visit, and he sent me a message and said, "So we're still on for this thing, right?" And I said, "What thing?" "Well, we're going to go and do this thing. We talked about it when you were here. We're going to go and do this thing." I had no recollection of it whatsoever. And for many years, it was very debilitating, very emotionally draining. I was beating myself up thinking, why can't I get this right? What is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. But it is still frustrating, especially since I don't know when I'm actually having them. There's no rhyme or reason. And until someone points it out to me, I never know when they actually happen. Although, I will say it is an interesting experience when sometimes I'm listening to the radio. I'm driving and I'm listening to the radio and listening to this song, and all of a sudden it's at the end of the song. And I pause, think, is that one of my memory blanks? Did I just miss something? Or did something actually just happen to the radio? That's happened a few times. And everyone has moments where they forget why they walked into the room, that kind of stuff. That's not what this is. This is actually having a full conversation with someone and having zero recollection. And I actually thought at one point that maybe it was Alzheimer's, but this happened to me in my 20s. And there's lots of different things that I thought it was over the years. But basically what it comes down to is I've come to terms with this is how I am. I'm not lazy. I'm not unreliable. I have challenges. And my daily life, this is just the way that it is. And my family has just come to accept it. But I'm not looked at as the flighty one anymore. People that don't know me that well, yeah, they might think that. And I do have trouble with relationships. 2 marriages failed. I have a hard time keeping friendships and making new ones. I've always had a difficulty with that. It's been a challenge, but this has woken up so many different things in my life. It's made me aware of so many different things, and it's given me a moment where I can just exhale and realize I'm not the problem. I'm not a problem. I'm not something that needs to be fixed. This is just how I am, and that's okay. So my purpose for this is to spread the awareness, give somebody else a safe space that they can think, oh crap, that's actually, yeah, that's me too. Shit, maybe it's not just in my head. Maybe there's actually more going on here. And maybe it'll spark something in them that they can do a discovery, and they can learn more about them and figure out that they're not dumb. They're not broken. You're not broken. If you're watching this and you're in the same space that I was not that long ago, thinking, why is this so hard? Why can't I just get this? If you're beating yourself up constantly, if you keep trying and trying and trying and wondering why everybody else is moving forward, but you're still sitting in the same spot, you are not broken. You just wired different. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to figure out how that wiring works, what pathways work for you, and that's it. There's nothing wrong with you. So that was my purpose for this video, is to spread this out there. And if this resonates for you, or if you have a different way that you discovered, I want to know about it. Tell me your story. If you have questions, I'm an open book. If you have some tips or tricks on how to navigate neurospicy life, then I want to hear from you. And I thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say, if you're neurospicy, you're my kind of people. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I look forward to reading your comments. And I look forward to seeing you again. Ciao for now.